Here's the contents page. Click on the section you want to watch or let the video run. Here are the performance notes for the BF-109 G2, which you can pause the video and take a moment to look at. Alright, here we are on the 109 G2. Start off by closing the canopy and we'll have a look around the cockpit. Very similar setup to the F4. So we'll start with looking at the tail wheel lock control. Pulling it back unlocks it and forward is locked. Here's the flaps wheel control. Pulling it back will make the flaps deploy and pushing it forward will make the flaps retract. The other wheel is the horizontal stabilizer. This will rotate your horizontal stabilizer up and down and it acts like a trim. Then we'll look at the throttle. That's full throttle and pulling back is idle. Now looking at the prop pitch controls, there's a little switch underneath there that we can flick and that will turn off the automatic system and that'll let us control prop pitch manually by using the switch on the throttle. And we can see how the clock face changes as we adjust propeller pitch. Going back to the left, we can see the mechanical undercarriage position indicator. Then we have the landing gear lights. The green is down and locked, blank is in transition, and red is up and locked. Onto the main panel, we have the ammunition counters. Then we have the repeater compass. Under that is the altimeter. Then we have turn and bank indicator and the airspeed indicator. Up the top right is the clock. Underneath is manifold pressure. Under that is the tachometer. Then we have the propeller pitch clock face. And then there's the coolant and oil intake temperatures. Then we have our fuel gauge and the fuel pressure and oil pressure split gauge. And underneath that we have the radiator flaps. So as you saw, the layout is very similar to the F4 and that goes for the startup as well. So we start by putting our throttle to idle to a third. Prop pitch should be automatic, radiator should be automatic, and then we just press E to start the engine. Now that the engine is started, you open the canopy, unlock the tail wheel and taxi to the runway. And as always, we skip the taxi and go straight to the takeoff. Starting at the threshold, I've already locked the tail wheel and have rolled forward to ensure it's straight. First thing we do is ensure the canopy is closed. Then we start deploying the flaps 20 degrees, so we're looking for the two notches on the wing. The tail wheel is already locked. Make sure the prop pitch is set to automatic. And for the takeoff, we're going to rotate at about 180 km per hour and retract the gear and flaps by 250. So everything's good to go. We'll start increasing the throttle gradually. You'll have to apply right rudder on takeoff because the aircraft will want to pull to the left. Push the stick forward a little bit to try and get the tail wheel off the ground and pick up some speed. Maintain the attitude and you'll lift off at about 180 km per hour. Now we're airborne, climbing and approaching 250 km an hour. We're going to retract the gear and start pulling the flaps in. And then we'll go through the landing checklist. So for the G2, keep prop pitch in automatic. On downwind we'll have a speed of 220 km per hour. We'll have our tail wheel locked, gear will be down, and the flaps will be down 20 degrees as well. We'll turn on the circular base and final when the runway is 45 degrees between the wing and the tail. Then we reduce throttle and start descending at 150 meters a minute. And we'll begin extending our flaps further, aiming to have full flaps by final approach. The final approach speed will be 180 km per hour, then we'll aim to touch down at 160. So now we're on downwind, gear is already down, flaps are coming down 20 degrees, and we're going to try and maintain altitude and bring our speed to 220 km per hour. Have a quick check of the runway position, just making sure the runway's under the wing. Now for the remainder of downwind, we just maintain altitude, heading and airspeed until we reach that point where the runway is 45 degrees. So we can check the runway position and see where it is. Still got a little bit further to go. Alright, that looks pretty good. So now we'll reduce throttle a little bit and begin our descent. Then we'll start deploying the flaps that extra notch. check where the runway is, and we can start bringing the flaps down all the way, and we should roll out on final approach at about 180 kilometers per hour. As always on final, we're going to be adjusting our throttle and pitch to maintain the airspeed and glide slope. Only making really tiny adjustments here, staying on glide slope and airspeed pretty well. And once we cross the threshold, we can reduce the throttle to idle and bring it into the 3-point position for the landing. And once you touch down, full back pressure, begin applying the brakes and retract the flaps. That was the familiar video for the BF109 G2. If you like these videos, you can let me know in the comments below and hit subscribe in the top left corner.